Hello! This is Unexplained Arkansas, and this is Lisa, your host. And no co-host tonight, but Daryl and Paris are in the office, the pod office, and they're listening. They're engaged. So that makes it feel something. I feel something about it. Right? Right. So, anywho, okay, so hope you guys had a wonderful Christmas and New Year's. I'm kind of getting back on track with the whole, Mondays, anyway, coming out with a new episode every Monday. And I do have a lot of exciting content lined up, some fun guests. I do just have a lot of fun stuff. So anyway, and I am, I've been trying to get to the point where I can have people come in. The audio, I've bought a brand new interface, I bought brand new mics, and it's just stinky. So help. I have some people in my church that I'm going to ask that can maybe fix me, because I have the equipment. It's just not working for me, and I don't like it. So anyway, I am in the works, and just bear with me. So anywho, this is episode 69, and it's the underwater ghost towns of Greers Ferry Lake. So this is a palate cleansing episode after the whole Christmas killer, which is the last two episodes. Go listen. It's 4.5 hours of it's a lot. It's just a lot. And it is very interesting, but it's a lot. And so this is just a fun one. This episode is fun. It's actually been on my mind to do for a while. So, I think it'll be interesting. So the legends, or I should say the stories, that I've heard over the years and from people, even as of this weekend, looking at, when I did this research and talking to people, me and Daryl did go to Heber, which we'll get into. But so the legends I've heard is that when the Greers Ferry Lake was formed, they flooded towns. So now there's phantom towns under the lake just waiting, people down there waiting to pull you under. And at night, you can even see lights. Ooh, these are the ghost stories. This is the fun stuff. So now for some history on the lake. So Greers Ferry Lake is actually located in Cleburne County, but it's so very large that the lake actually is touching cities that are in Van Buren County as well. And I will say the Van Buren's on the north side. Greers Ferry would be, or the Cleburne County is more on the south side. The lake encompasses over 40,000 acres. So the lake is huge, and it touches over 300 miles all along the sides, and there's tons of communities. So the shoreline is over 300 miles, and lots of communities around the lake. The kind of closest city, quote unquote, to get to the lake from Searcy, where I live, is going to Heber Springs, and that's where me and Daryl went on Saturday, and we hiked and had fun. But there's also cities. There's Clinton, there's Higdon, and then there's the city of Greers Ferry. It's actually called Greers Ferry, and those are on the lake. And again, there's several communities like Eden Isle, Tannenbaum, Tumbling Shoals. There are several different communities. I think they call it Cherokee. Is that right, Daryl? Cherokee? I don't know. So I think it's Cherokee. So anywho, the lake, it takes, so Greers Ferry Lake is located in the north central part of Arkansas. So if you're looking at the United States, it is in the central part of Arkansas and about 80 miles almost straight north of Little Rock. So the lake kind of came about because in 1938, and there were issues happening with flooding. So flooding was happening. It was issues around certain rivers. So Congress passed the Flood Control Act, which authorized the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to build dams on most of the country's major kind of free, lakes, or not lake systems, but river systems. So like the White River Basin was one of them, which includes the Little Red River, which runs around our area. So this was one of the chosen areas to build a dam. So before Greers Ferry Lake was formed in the area was settled by farmers kind of living along the Little Red River. And of course, because of all the water, it was very good farmland. Like people created, houses. They settled there for a long time. But it was so low lying that there was constant flooding going on. And so these communities, they had to, basically the U.S. Corp of Engineers kind of had to come in and like move them, so to speak. So the communities that actually, and when, I guess they were called towns, communities really that were there along the Little Red River where Greers Ferry Lake is now. You had Higdon, which Higdon was actually moved, but you had a community called Shiloh, Shiloh is under Greers Ferry Lake. There's the community of Choctaw. It is under Greers Ferry Lake. You have the community of Edgemont, under the lake still. There's one, it's called Eglantine. I believe that's how you pronounce it. It's under the lake. And then there's Miller, and that was a community that is now under the lake. So there are several that were just flooded out, but Higdon was moved. So Choctaw and Eglantine were also kind of on the north side, so they were actually Van Buren County, but the others like Shiloh, Edgemont, Miller, and Higdon, they were like, as far as I know or could see, they were Cleburne County. So skipping a little spot. So the U.S. Corps of Engineers began actually purchasing up the land. So after they made this decision, they started purchasing the land that they knew that they would flood for the dam in around the early 50s. And obviously some of the landowners really didn't wish to move. However, I'm sure there was constant flooding. There would have been those issues going on. And of course it was their homes, but still they kind of felt like they really didn't have a lot of options. I mean, it was going to happen. So, they kind of had to get on with it. But according to an article I found regarding the town of Shiloh, so the town of Shiloh consisted of a school, a store, and a church. And we'll kind of talk about that. But in the paranormal sense. But one of the families recounted that, the government came in and bought the land, and then they actually moved their home like to another spot. So they actually moved their house. So their house, was moved. And then the town size was actually just a few blocks. So Shiloh was not huge by any means, but it was known to have naturally paved streets because basically there was like a really thin amount of dirt. And so when the rains would come, it would kind of wash away the thin amount of dirt that was actually there. And then it was just rock. So basically Shiloh was on rock already. So it appeared that the town had paved roads way back when, paved roads would have been like, ideal or, not really happening in other places. So additionally, kind of notated in the article, so the narrator whom the article was about, her name was Anne, and it just says in the article that there used to be, I guess you could see way back where her home had been because there was a storm cellar there. They had a storm cellar. And then it also mentions that, once kind of all these communities, like you can kind of see roads that once led in and out of the communities are now boat launches. So if you see that, and if you look at like a very old map of these towns before the lake was there, then you can match up the roads, basically. Like you can actually see the roads kind of coming in and out of the lake. And this article does say that many divers said that you can still see houses, vehicles that were abandoned. And once a friend of their family had told Anne that they had been using sonar equipment in the lake, and they could still see the concrete foundation on which Anne's home had been on. So I thought that was really interesting. So according to that article, people have seen homes and, vehicles abandoned, basically the abandoned towns underwater. Now I will say when we went to do, we had gone to Heber on Saturday and we first stopped at that. I believe it's like the William Garner. Is that what it's called? It's like the little dam, like the museum by the dam. And we had gone there to kind of get information on the dam, but also to, kind of talk to locals. And there was an older man in there, and he mentioned how, like Higdon especially, that he said that the town was, that they pretty much like leveled the town. Like when they moved the town, they leveled it. That was what he said. So I don't know. Again, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 6 communities that had quite a bit of buildings that were there. So, I think it depends on what part of the lake, but maybe Higdon where they moved stuff, or maybe certain things were torn down. But obviously there was a lot of possibilities for buildings to be underwater. And I always kind of heard, again, you hear all kinds of things. So kind of getting back on track. So kind of each little town kind of had its own little story of pre-flooding or kind of the possibility of being flooded out. So for Choctaw and Eglantine, again, these were in Van Buren. So it had mentioned the displaced families and cemetery, like the movement, the lake, it displaced families and cemeteries, and it covered the villages of Choctaw and Eglantine, as well as the rich bottoms of South Fork of the Little Red River. But much of the money from the government's purchase of the land was reinvested in the county in the form of land purchases, also bought for recreational opportunities, and additional residents and visitors came in, which increased their land value. So for those areas, like it kind of, I guess, stunk a little bit, but it provided a lot more good than bad in the long run. Now for Edgemont, it says in the 1950s, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers had a community meeting and informed the residents upon the completion of Greers Ferry, which would basically put the town 60 to 80 feet underwater. So in response, the community was moved roughly 1 mile north to its current location. So, and basically there are some old remains of Edgemont, obviously under the water. So it looks like Edgemont was kind of moved as well as Higdon. But in the 1950s, for Higdon, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers came in and met with city officials, and they informed the officials and residents that upon completion, again, that there would, it would be underwater. So with this in mind, in 1959, Mayor David Gadberry and the city alderman voted to move the town to a 13-acre site that was kind of close by, and it said that only 5 families did not want to move their homes in Higdon for the creation. So basically, everybody voted to move, and so they moved. So the town of Higdon is still going on. Evidently, Edgemont moved a little bit as well, although it says most of it's underwater. And like I said, according to that person over at the museum, they are at the, I guess it's like, what is that place called? William Garner? Do you remember? Museum? I don't know. I'll look that up. I'll plug it. But yeah, he was super interesting. He thought that there might be a model like in Greers Ferry, and we didn't make it to Greers Ferry because if you're in Heber, it's a pretty good jaunt because you got to go all the way around the lake. So we didn't make it to Greers Ferry, but he mentioned that there was a model made of perhaps Higdon that, before the lake was created, and that you could still find the model in like this gas station in Greers Ferry. Unless it's been moved or whatever. He thought it might have gone to the Cleburne County Historical Society, which we did go there and got a lot of good information, which I'll mention here in a minute. But yeah, so we didn't make it to this gas station in Greers Ferry, but if you have been there and there is a model there of an old town, let me know. I'd love to know because I'll make the little jaunt. So in the 21st century, it said that Higdon had experienced kind of something of a rebirth, and it was very owed to the lake. So the lake did bring in a lot of expensive homes. It brought in businesses. It brought in all types of things to cater to the tourists. And in 1961, the city voted to actually pave the streets of their town. And also in 72, they put in a city water system. So there were some good things, again, brought on by the lake for the town of Higdon. So along with purchasing the land and such, the Corps did have the job of moving everything in the community. And like they had to move the cemeteries. And, the rumors are that there's still, that there's cemeteries under the water, that nothing was moved. But actually, and I do have some data. So, and shout out to Jennifer, at the Historical Society there in Cleburne County. They have a museum. It's awesome. It's on Main Street, so go visit it. And I will plug that in our references and such. But basically, the Corps spent kind of a lot of time. So I don't know. So, you hear that there's bodies in the lake, which feels very Crystal Lake-ish or what lies beneath-ish. But anyway, I mean, it is what it is. Like I said, I went to the Cleburne County Historical Society Museum, and Jennifer was super helpful, and she kind of gave me the 411 on the cemeteries being moved. So basically, they had to relocate any body, any bone, any headstone that they did find. And if they had to kind of recreate new coffins for these, they had to basically form cemeteries on higher ground, and they had to form coffins. I think Jennifer had mentioned that they created some headstones for these people, like if they didn't have one perhaps, or maybe if something happened to it in the move. But they were very diligent, and if they didn't find like a body per se or something, which we'll kind of get into this, but I mean, they would dig deep enough that they felt comfortable. They basically did their due diligence, I guess, on that. So yes, so all the bodies were moved, or I should say tried to be moved. So there were 5 cemeteries named that actually were moved, and she did show me the paperwork on it. It's so interesting. But one cemetery was named Turney. There was a cemetery named Brown. There was a cemetery named Eglantine, and I guess that's the town. And then there was Simplins, and then Gray. And so it said that there was a total amount of actual bodies or bones, I guess, found of 262. And then the number of graves found with quote unquote other evidence came out to, 398 graves. So 398 had something there. 262 had actual bodies or bones. And then there was I believe it was one grave that had absolutely nothing. And then when it said what this quote unquote other evidence is, it's like if they found nails, screws, casket hardware, bits of wood, buttons, clothing, like that would be evidence of someone being buried there. So again, they really did their due diligence to make sure they got everyone moved, which is really appreciated, I would think. But seriously, how awful to have that job and to be responsible for moving graves. I would be praying over that whole situation. I mean, because even though their souls aren't there, it's just you're out of respect, I guess. So, I mean, they were, what do they call it? Deterred there? I don't know. So it just feels weird to think about these, bodies being moved. And then really sad that they couldn't find, there were about 600, graves to move, and just having one that had absolutely nothing. So, it's very interesting, very sad and very weird. So are there dead people in the waters? Obviously there probably could have easily been remnants. I'm sure they tried to get everything, but they did try to move them. So once the land was all purchased up and people were actually moved out, the Corps actually could start building the Greers Ferry Dam. And it is a hydroelectric dam. It does produce a total of 96 megawatts of power, and it has 2 generating units. And it says rated at 48,000 kilowatts per unit. So I thought that was interesting. So, it's the dam is providing energy, but it's also, it stopped the flooding and it created the beautiful lake, which we'll talk about. So kind of, and we talked about the key points. So the dam, so that would dam up, the dam kind of came in and dammed up the Little Red River, and the lake began filling in. So the timeline for all of this, because I will say when I was looking online, like I found some site that said that the lake actually started to fill up in the 40s, which is not accurate. So Jennifer there at Cleburne County Historical Society did have a timeline for me, which was interesting. And so in June of 1957 is when they had the groundbreaking ceremony for the actual construction on the dam. Now, in January of 1963, the dam itself was completed, and then they did start to flood the area. So they would start to actually flood it. Now, in October of 1963, and this is approximately 50 days before he was assassinated, President John F. Kennedy came to Arkansas and was in Heber Springs for the dedication of the dam. And there are pictures. I will be posting every picture that I can find and took from the museum. But it seems so weird and sad that this was one of his last major appearances before he went to Dallas that day. So terrible. The lake, like I said, it did begin filling up after the dam itself was completed at the beginning of 1963. And the lake is known for being one of the cleanest and clearest lakes really in the country. And people come to boat, ski, fish, swim. There's tons of camping grounds. I don't camp. And there's tons of like picnicking grounds, and there's like a sandy beach area. There's just tons of swimming areas and activities and kayaking things, and people do scuba dive. So it is active for the scuba diving, people. So the lake is said to be at the deepest point, and kind of depending on the rain and the season, but it can get up to 400 feet deep. Did you know that, Daryl?
No.
That is deep. Yeah, that is deep. He said no. And it's said that 5.5 million people visit the lake each year. Isn't that crazy? Yeah, that's a huge number. So I think our state has 4 million people in it? Is that right? 3.5? So our population of Arkansas is 3 to 4 million, and 5.5 million people visit the lake. Like, that's insane. I didn't realize that happened. But anyway, so when you get that kind of, the lake's huge, and when you get that kind of depth and you get that amount of people, there does come with it lake accidents. Like, they happen. And we have even been on the lake when accidents happen or whatever. But according to the Arkansas Game and Fish and other data on the internet, the average per year is 1 to 2 persons drown and die in Greers Ferry Lake per year on average. And some of these are drownings, just swimming, and then some of those are boating incidences. And again, I know we've been out there when things have actually happened and you hear about a medical emergency and all you do is pray that the people are okay. But the lake is a place, like I said, a lot of people go out there. They do have cliffs. So there are tons of cliffs and people go out there and jump off the cliffs. And so that's kind of another situation for bodily harm, safety issues. And also, people partake in the drinking. So just, they say don't drink and drive, and I say don't drink and swim, or drink and boat. So just not a good mix. mix of things going on. But just that knowledge of the deaths, there is deaths in the lake, that kind of creates the other stories and the gossip mill. And of course, it's just awful that there's such tragedies, but these accidents, they happen. So be careful out there. My brother has a boat out on the lake, and kind of between his boat and then growing up and going out there, like, I've been out to the lake a number of times. I can't even remember how many times I've been out to Greers Ferry Lake. But I will say it is beautiful. Do what? Did you say to me? Oh, her. Okay. Hey, Paris is walking around. So, anywho, I've been out the lake at night, and I will say we've gone up for 4th of July situations over the years with my brother, and it is crazy. Like, I don't know how many people get out there on the lake, but I don't know. It's just crazy. And I don't know why lakes are so scary, but lakes like encompass a lot of horror movies, like Crystal Lake. It's like in Friday the 13th part 2, she talks about the boy in the lake. The boy, did you find the boy in the lake? Like, you always feel like there's going to be someone in the lake to get you. Am I right? Am I right, Daryl? Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's slow to it. So he agrees. So kind of, lakes are scary. Even if they're beautiful, they're scary. And so there's, like I said, there's been a lot of stories. There's been a lot of things. And I'm going to kind of get into the story. So the biggest thing, like I said, are people say that there are bodies. People say that there are people in the lake, but also that they see lights in the lake. And there have been several reports of the lights, and some people have even said when they were scuba diving that when they dove down, the lights were coming from the actual steeple of the church in Shiloh. So that's some of the scary stories. Now, I will say I enjoy kind of looking on YouTube and kind of looking at TikTok. So I will shout out Amber Heard. I'm sure a lot of you people have seen her content. It is very good. She has a very tiny little minute or two about things. And she did cover, kind of literally in a minute or two, she covered the lights of Greers Ferry. And then she also got into another thing. But the comment section is where I like to go. This is people commenting. This is people giving their 2 cents. And I really love that. So a person named Trish, this one was kind of sad. So she just commented on a TikTok that her ex-brother-in-law jumped off a boat and disappeared, not to be found for 10 days. And he was very young, youthful, good shape, good swimmer, and he was only 28 years old. So that was horrible. A Brooklyn says, I grew up in Heber, never heard of these things, never heard of, we're going to talk about this, the water panther. However, there is someone that I heard will take people on tours of the towns at the bottom of the lake. So Brooklyn, if you're listening, or if you know of any, if you know of people giving tours of the bottom of the lake, let me know. This sounds like I need to go. There is a person named Red that said, my uncle dived it and there was stuff still left. For sure. Love it. Tara, and she had a very interesting spelled name. She said, I knew someone who did mysteriously, and this one's sad too, mysteriously drowned there years ago. Haven't heard about the lights before. So that was Tara. There is Cowboy Adams, and he states that he has seen mailboxes. So he has actually, like, I guess he's a scuba diver, and he dove down there and he had seen mailboxes and old home foundations along an old sunken road, kind of not far from the Shiloh Marina. So there is a marina there in Shiloh. So this is what he said. That would be awesome to see. There's another person that says, and their name is Creation Bound, they met a man in Greers Ferry years ago that told him that his grandmother's buried in the cemetery under the lake. She was supposed to have been relocated, but never was. He said that part was not documented, so who knows what to believe there. So again, there was an article. No, this was a YouTube video and you can actually, this was interesting to me. I didn't know this, but you can go on YouTube. You can watch videos of people diving at Greers Ferry. And of course, like, Greers Ferry is beautiful. It's pretty clear as far as a lake goes, but lakes are not clear. So the visibility is not great. I mean, it's a murky situation. So I don't know at what depth they got to, but again, visibility's low. And they do try to film, they do try to take like a flashlight down to kind of see, something down there. So anyway, but yeah, so this video, I did find a video, Arkansas diving, and it did say in one of the, like, this was actually the diver, he had a picture, and I'll kind of post this, of the mailbox. So it said, diving at Greers Ferry Lake, ran across a mailbox with a surprise inside. Always fun running into that. And I'm not going to post this other video. It was funny, but it was like this guy that dives, and he was on like a paddle board wearing a suit top. Anyway, and he was kind of funny, but he said a lot of the divers in Greers Ferry, so they will actually, it's like take items down, like kind of do some like geocaching, like they'll leave like cool things for other divers to find. And so I'm wondering if this, because this Arkansas diving did not state what they found in the mailbox, they didn't show that, but I don't know if it was like one of those type geocaching items. Like it looked like a lot of people leave those little gnome statues or something. I don't know. It was pretty fun, but it was the guy in the video that I'm talking about that was wearing the suit on top and swim trunks on bottom. He was showing a lot of these items, so it was a pretty fun video. So just FYI, you can go on YouTube, watch some fun videos of people actually diving. Someone named Randy says, my parents and I have been scuba diving in the lake countless times, and they've never seen a monster. So they were talking about the monster that was mentioned in one of the, I think Amber mentioned a monster, but they had seen, Randy says they had seen a lot of abandoned vehicles and such. A different person named Brandy, she was right under Randy, she stated, I know a man that moved the bodies to new cemeteries. His twin brother jumped off the dam. Okay, so terrible. So that was from Brandy. And then Summer posted, I'm from Greers Ferry, born and raised, and have never heard this, but it is true about the lights and the building under the water still stand, and you can see them. I love that. So again, just some fun comments. So there's definitely been some people along the years to comment about these lights. Now, other fun rumors that were posted in articles in different places was, and this was funny, it's highly unlikely a saltwater fish like a bull shark is swimming around in freshwater Greers Ferry Lake, nibbling on people, but social media and other items are stating this is true. So basically, this article I found was like a comment, like I think he was with maybe with the Greers Ferry Fire Department or something, but they were stating that the type of rumors that were going around was that there was a bull shark in Greers Ferry Lake that was nibbling on people. Yes. And so that is frightening. Can you imagine if there was a shark in the lake, Daryl? Like, I would freak out. Oh my goodness. It'd be like, isn't there a movie like Sharknado? Or I don't know. Phone me in, people. Let me know. So kind of, again, tons of rumors flying around about different things. So now, along with the mention of bodies in the water or cemeteries and then the sightings of the lights, so there is a very active legend in Heber Springs with the lake, and people state that they have had sightings of a cryptid called the water panther. Again, Amber did dive into this for a second. And so I do plan on kind of researching this. It sounds very interesting. And I do have some cryptid podcast host friends. And so that's something, the water panther is definitely on my to-do list. And so is I think it's called the Gowro, I don't even know. Can't even say it. So these cryptid things are definitely on my list of things to do in 25. So just stay tuned for that. And also, so there have been, honestly, along with the water panther situation, there have been actually a few more rumors, and this one's very fun to me. But so it says that if you actually dive like along where the actual dam is, like it's very deep there, and people have said throughout the years that the catfish down there are as small as or as large as small cars. So this is another rumor, legend that is also associated with the Greers Ferry Lake. I've heard that like a lot, and I don't know how deep it gets at that point, but I mean, I think it's pretty deep in it. I don't know if it's the deepest part of the lake at the dam or not, but it is definitely deep. Maybe has some catfish the size of your like little VW Beetle. I don't even know. So that is of interest there. And I did see a lot of people comment on the TikToks about the large catfish. But bottom line, if you love, lake life, if you love swimming, diving, boating, jumping off cliffs, just camping, you absolutely need to go to Greers Ferry. In fact, I think a lot of the town now has a lot of people that have moved in to retire. A lot of people have second homes out there, and they come over from places like Memphis or Little Rock. It's just a very beautiful lake. It is, again, large, so you have a lot of options as far as, where to live. Because it is, the Corp of Engineers, you are limited to what you can, quote unquote, build on the lake. So, but there are, homes, neighborhoods, different things to, access the lake. I mean, it's absolutely a beautiful lake. And if you have a boat, it's fun for you. And there are some awesome restaurants. I'm going to plug, we used to, a couple years ago, several years ago before Elle was so very busy, we used to do like couples weekends. And so we had two different, and we would do them once a year and get a lot of couples and go rent a house for a weekend. And it was so much fun. One day we'll get back to it. But anyway, we did go to, we rented a big house in Heber one time, and then we also rented a house in Higdon, and it was super pretty and whatever, but we went to eat at Jansen's, and we've eaten at Jansen's a couple times, but Jansen's is that considered Greers Ferry area, Daryl?
I thought that was Edgemont.
Is that Edgemont there?
I think it was where that
Edgemont. Oh, okay. So maybe it's Edgemont area, but Jansen's, you can access Jansen's like by the lake, or you can drive to it. The food is wonderful. I'll plug Jansen's, and then another place to eat. Well, Heber itself has some amazing restaurants, but we ate, I think last summer we went to do some hiking and looking around, and we were on the other side of the lake from Heber, and we ate at the Little Red River Cafe or something. It was kind of in a resort, yeah, it was Fairfield Bay. We went to Fairfield Bay, and that place was so good. And then we've also, of course, eaten at several places in Heber. The other day when we went, we literally got Taco Bell because we wanted something fast. And you know what? The Cantina Chicken Bowl, it fit my diet plan, and it was amazing in a pinch. So just FYI. But tons of great eats. You can rent a house for the weekend, go. So if you've never been to Greers Ferry Lake, go. And then also go back and listen to the Tragedy of Mindy McCready episode. I just did that episode not too long ago. And so of course, that all happened up where we're talking about. So definitely check it out. And a huge reminder, because this does have some sadness, but anyway, a reminder to always wear a life jacket when boating on Greers Ferry Lake and practice boat safety. And really just, if you've got kids or anything and they're jumping off those cliffs, put those babies in in like any type of, what do you call those, puddle jumpers or life jacket, whatever, just make sure to keep safe. And so this one was, again, a fun one. Do I think that there's lights in the water? Of course I do. So I plan on going at night. Like I'm a late night person, but not necessarily driving around Heber late night. So, but anyway, if anyone wants to go on an adventure at night, and maybe I can talk my brother into taking me out on his boat at night. So this is to you, Jeff. Take me out on your boat. So anywho, maybe we'll see the lights of Shiloh. Ooh. Well, anywho, so this is all I have for this week. Like I said, I've only got like 30 days until our live show, and our live show is going to cover, and I'm going to get this information out. So it's going to be the haunted history of the White County Courthouse and other White County haunts. And we're also going to, we're going to be in the Rialto. We're going to talk about its history as well. So our show is February 8th. If you would like to reserve a ticket or purchase your ticket through the Cash App, just email me, unexplainedarkansas@gmail.com, and I'm on all the stuff. So just reach out to me if you feel like you want to go to the live show. It is February 8th. Amber is going to host with me. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to record the show, and then the show will be like part of the podcast. So it will be an episode kind of 2 weeks after the show. I'll put it out. So just FYI, come be a part of the show. I will make it interactive. I will make it fun. So, and Amber will too. We'll have so much fun together. And maybe we'll have prizes. We're not Oprah. Don't expect cashmere or anything, but who knows what we'll have. So anyway, love you guys so much. Hope you have a wonderful week and hope you enjoy this. And please let me know if you have had any instances, any happenings at Greers Ferry Lake. Bye. Love ya.